Hey y'all, it is Catherine Massell here, Ascending Earth Creatrix. Hello. Spiritual growth mentor, master energy healer. Hello. It is very bright in here. I should probably turn my shade down a little bit. That might help, I hope. Hello and welcome. I want to make sure that I am in the right place since I have a lot of different Facebook pages. And I'm going to share this. Maybe some people will want to jump on. Who knows? That would be nice. Dina's here. That's my girl right there. Hi, Dina. I'm just going to share this in a couple places. Super duper quick. I see 3 people, but I don't see who they are. So say hello, let me know you're here. If you're watching the replay, say hashtag replay. Hi, Techwin. Hi, Allison. I'm going to share this in a couple places. And yeah, okay. Great. Allison, I was thinking about you today. I hope you're doing okay, lady. You just popped into my mind several times. So it's lovely that you're here. Maybe I conjured you. I don't know. Conjured you to this call. So yes, what is the title of it? Well, I can't remember what I wrote the title about an hour ago, and then I started writing what I was going to say. Reasons you're experiencing personality crisis and how to shift out of that feeling like you're in limbo. There's a lot of interesting things going on right now. Super, super interesting things going on right now. On a celestial basis, on a personal basis, on our human level, on our spiritual level, there's a lot of things that are going on, a lot of things transforming, a lot of things moving along very, very quickly. And in order to stay kind of in a nice, easy, fun, graceful rhythm with everything that's happening, there's a couple tips and tricks that might really help you out. Ellison says, thanks, that does not surprise me. Okay, good. Okay, good. We got some things going on right now that are ushering out a lot of old processes, old systems that were in place that were, for most intents and purposes, allowing us to kind of just survive, to get through, to manage a greater spiritual awakening that's been happening over the last 8 or 9 years. And so we have some celestial energies changing and shifting right now that are really lending themselves to this invitation to all of us to take what we've learned from this spiritual awakening and then now integrate it into our human awakening process. And what's creating this kind of personality crisis, by the way, this is one of the biggest things that people are experiencing as an ascension symptom right now. And I talked about this for about a half hour yesterday. If you want to go to my Facebook page and click on, you can search the posts, I think, and you can click on personality crisis. I did a live about this yesterday, that this is one of the biggest things happening for us as human beings, kind of waking up in our ascension process of human awakening. We have spiritual awakening that's been happening, but now we're going into this period of integrating that into a sense of wholeness, where we feel like we're operating in this world as the highest, most evolved, idealized versions of ourselves. This is happening to some degree or another. We're trying to figure out what that is for us. We're trying to get clarity on who is the ideal version of me and how do I show up as her or him every day. These questions are coming in kind of fast and furious for us right now. And so what's happening is that we're undergoing or experiencing this personality crisis, meaning the shifts are happening so fast, they're coming in so quickly that the old me, you, him, her, everybody, and all our friends that we know, we are losing this old sense of self, and the old self is falling away, shedding in layers very rapidly at a very accelerated rate, by the way. And that's jarring for us because we're not really comfortable with a level of very quick, very intense change. And I'm talking about transformation, not just change, not just a shift here and there. I'm talking about transformation. As humans, we're not really suited, and we are kind of hardwired against change. We like familiar, we like safe. familiar and comfortable, and being in our comfort zone equals safe for us. And so we kind of have been going through this, let's just say, reconciling with this idea of lack programming that we've had sometimes for our whole lives. There's been a real upshot in it over the last few years. We feel like this intense feeling of lack programming, but that's because we've been conditioned, we've been hardwired that way since we were very, very young. And we're starting to realize just how many quantum potentials and possibilities are available to us. And we're starting to, like, you know, scratch our chin and say, you know, it seems like I'm manifesting things that I want really fast. Or sometimes, like, when I say things, it just, something ends up coming into my experience really quickly that allows this new way of being, this change, to come in kind of gracefully and kind of easier than I thought. Maybe not the way we had imagined it, but changes can happen really, really quickly if we're on board with this level of change. We're starting to realize that sometimes as soon as we say things or think things, sometimes that it's coming into being. Or opportunities or pathways, passages are showing up for us to kind of walk that path and create that into being. Yes? Give me a heart if this has been happening for you. So we're kind of reconciling this change of, we've been wired for lack programming and this kind of survival state consciousness for so long that we've become used to it. It's comfortable for us, even if it's not good for us in a greater sense of us accessing this highest ideal version of self. But it's comfortable. It's what we know, right? Getting through the day, getting through the week, getting through the month, the year, whatever, that's just what we know, right? We're used to that. But now we're starting to see, because of this spiritual awakening that's been happening on a consistent trajectory over the last 8 or 9 years, so many different possibilities and potentials available that we hadn't even dreamed up before, we hadn't even imagined before. And now it gets exciting because we're starting to realize that as soon as we talk about things or even like have a thought and then allow a feeling to follow of something opening up, something feeling expansive because of this new thought about this great thing that we can have, be, or do. And then we're starting to see evidence of that showing up in physical form in some way, shape, or form in our reality, and we're like, wow, I really can create anything that I want. I really can start making things happen that are beyond what I could have imagined before. And they may not be showing up in the ways that we thought they would. Hardly anything ever does. But we're excited by these kind of unpredictable outcomes that are taking us into new pathways of being that are actually elevated ways of being, that feel more enlightened, that feel more joyful, that feel more meaningful, that feel more fulfilling for us. But the problem with this is that we're still fighting to be the old us. We're still fighting to be the old self because that's what's familiar. And we, on an unconscious level, we kind of fight and kick and scream these new changes, these new revelations, these new amazing ideas flooding our consciousness coming in. We're fighting it based merely on the idea that change is hard, change is uncomfortable, even though the changes are coming in and they actually are kind of revelatory and kind of wonderful. We're hardwired in our internal programming to resist change. So what's happening and why we're experiencing, so many of us, this personality crisis, because we're experiencing a bigger gap now more than ever before between the person that we present to the world and say, this is me, that person that we present to the world that maybe fears some judgment, fears some change, wants to please people, wants to be part of the pack, wants to, not be excommunicated from the tribe. We are also wired to want to be part of humanity. We're wired to want to be part of a pack, of a tribe. And so the person that we present to the world is often just a kind of shadow. Maybe we get sometimes expressions of our authentic self that kind of come out in bursts, but we always temper it by thinking, well, I don't want to show too much because I don't want to be judged, and I don't want to share too much of myself because people think I'm a weirdo, or whatever the hell we tell ourselves that restrict our level of expression and showing up as the highest authentic, idealized version of self. So what's happening is this gap between who we present to the outer world and who we authentically want to be the you that you want to share with the world, and the you that is dying to be fully expressed, seen, and understood, that gap between those two versions of you is getting bigger. And that is causing this crisis of the soul. It's causing a crisis of identity. It's causing a crisis in how we experience our spiritual nature and feel like we can express that as human beings. A lot of doubt, a lot of confusion, and an ever-widening gap. So that's one of the reasons why we have this personality crisis going on. The other thing is, those of us who have been, let's just say, happily going along with this spiritual journey, this spiritual ascension journey, elevating our spiritual consciousness over the last 8 or 9 years, and we've been doing the work, we've been showing up, we've been doing, working with shadow, we've been working at, some of the parts of us that are not the prettiest things to look at, but they're still part of who we are. We can't reject those aspects of us because they have so much to teach us, right? They're actually the most brilliant teachers we have, is the parts of us that are kind of mired or even have been marinating in shadow for many, many years or sometimes even decades. That's the part of ourselves that has so much to teach us, has so much to share, has so much to show us about being human. So we can't reject this part of self. But what we're doing is we're saying, okay, well, I see this part of myself. I've been doing the spiritual journey. I've been opening up to shadow. And what I really want is transformation. I want to live beyond this level of shadow that I feel like maybe has been dragging me down or allowing me to have a lesser than human experience over years, decades, whatever. It's been hurting me, with relationships. It's been hurting me with love. It's been hurting me with money. And we're crying out and saying out loud sometimes even, I want transformation. I want to change. But I want to ask you straight up, do you? Do you know what transformation really involves? Because I'm talking about, remember at the beginning of this call, I talked about how uncomfortable it can be because we're not hardwired for deep, deep change. And anytime we try to make even a subtle shift, maybe you want to lose more weight, or you want to get up earlier in the morning and meditate, or do something that's for your betterment, get ready because you're going to be uncomfortable. And so when you're saying that you want all parts of your life, all aspects of your world to transform and to change, you better really get ready. Because when I say, okay, do you really want transformation? The reason I'm asking that is because you're asking for it, but the reason why this personality crisis is happening and why this gap between the old self or the self that you have presented and continue to present to the world versus the self that you want to be the highest idealized expression of you, that gap is widening also because mostly you're rejecting transformation. Because here's the thing, the second you ask for it, especially when you ask for it out loud, and you have even some sort of sensation, some sort of feeling of what transformation is, some idea, some vision, maybe you're mentally rehearsing or doing some sort of creative visualization about what a new life could look like for you. A new love in your life, more creative partnership, more fulfilling work that you're doing, a better career, whatever it is. If you have some sort of semblance in your mind's eye of what that could look like, and better yet, what that feels like, you're already creating it. You're imprinting it in the ethereal. It already exists out there in the quantum field of possibility. So when you are saying that I want transformation, and you have some idea of what that is, and you begin to imprint that in the ethereal, what's already happening is the universe is showing up with ways to help deliver this transformation to you. Again, it's not always going to look like the way you think it's going to look like. That's why it's better to go into the feeling of what transformation could be for you, having a better career, a better love life, more money, whatever that is. It's better to go into the feeling of it than exactly how that's going to look, because you're going to be disappointed if you have a very concrete vision of how it's supposed to look, because when we do that and we are all about how something looks, when it does show up, you don't recognize it because you're looking for this thing and you're mentally giving yourself instruction to only look for this thing. The mind is really good at following that mental instruction. And meanwhile, the universe is showing up with what you want, but you can't recognize it because you're not thinking about the feeling, or you're not invested in the feeling. You're only invested in the vision of it. So don't do that. But we're asking for transformation. I'm not saying maybe it's you specifically, but maybe to some degree you've asked for transformation, but then it shows up. It shows up in a way that you don't want it to show up, and so you reject it. You're asking for it, but mostly you are really trying to micromanage it. You're trying to moderate it. I did a live yesterday where I talked about this was happening for me, and what I was doing is saying, I was questioning it. This is another thing we do. We question the transformation. This can't possibly be for me, which gets wrapped up in a lot of worthiness issues and self-value and self-worth and all that crap. But it's also like, this is happening way too fast for me. This is too much. This can't possibly be the way the universe is delivering transformation for me. And that is all resistance. Questioning it, micromanaging it, saying this is too fast, I'm not ready for this. You are ready. If you're asking for it, and if there's a part of you that wants it, there's a part of you that's ready. It's not ever going to show up in the way that you think it will, visually. But if you're more invested in how it feels to transform, what that could open up for you, the possibilities that could then be available to you, the potentials, the pathways, the passageways of having an elevated level of experience, what would that feel like for you? Invest your energy in that. Don't get so wrapped up in the outcomes of how something is supposed to look, because you're going to be disappointed. But do you want it then? If you're questioning it, if you're micromanaging it, if you're trying to moderate it, if you are saying to the universe, well, that's not how it's supposed to look, right? That is all resistance. And then what's happening is that gap, that personality crisis just gets bigger. It widens even more. Because now you're presented with so much contrast in between the you that you're presenting to the world, which doesn't feel right. It fits like a pair of shoes that you've outgrown. Or, your favorite pair of jeans that just don't fit anymore. Like that old you have outgrown her in so many ways. And the reason it feels so uncomfortable to be in this contrast, in this limbo, this place that's in between, this gap in between the you that you present to the world now and have presented to the world now, between the desired future you, becomes even bigger, because that contrast, there's so many different levels of the contrast now. And the person that's supplying all the contrast is you. Sorry, not sorry. Because you're so creative, you're so good at imagining all the ways and all the things that could go wrong between you where you are and you becoming this desired future version of you that you emulate, that you want, that you admire, and you know she's out there somewhere, but there's a part of you that is still mired in fear of who am I going to be? Because that weird gap, that personality crisis that's happening, and the weird gap that's in between, you know what that is in that space? That is you overthinking every fucking thing. That is you overthinking, overfeeling everything. It is the ego running rampant. It is the inner critic and the inner judge having a field day. It is the ego being the master of your experience instead of the servant of your experience. And that is a hard, hard thing to realize. A hard thing to realize. That the only resistance showing up that's creating this ever-widening gap between where we are, the person we are right now, and the person we want to be, is our own contribution to this contrast. With all the thoughts and feelings that we have that are telling us why this isn't going to work out. Why it's not meant to work out for us. All the BS excuses that we come up with that are disguised as practicality, but really is just window dressing for fear. And this, I'm saying this out of mad respect and mad love for you, because I know that many of you are feeling this transition in a big, big way, and you're feeling this contrast. I just came out of basically 2 months of going way down the rabbit hole with this stuff, and that's why I wanted to share this with you. But I want to tell you that if you are really asking for transformation, be really clear on whether you want it or not. because it's not going to be comfortable. It's not going to be pleasant because we're hardwired against that level of change. But if you are very, very clear on who you want to become and the shift cost, hear me when I say this, the cost of shifting through this contrast and becoming this desired future reality of you, if that shift cost is lesser than, I mean, it's not going to cost you that, it's going to feel uncomfortable, but think about you not stepping into this desired future reality of you. If you're the same person 5 years from now, what is that costing you? You have to put it in those terms. You have to look at the long term. You have to look at the path that you're on right now. Are you on a path of gradual change? Maybe you don't want to take giant leaps forward. You don't have to. The thing is, it's your life. You get to change in any way you want. You get to decide not to transform at all. That's your free will choice. But if the shift cost, meaning if what it costs you to be uncomfortable right now as you make these shifts, is lesser than the overall cost of you not doing anything and you being in the same position 5 years from now, that's what you need to think about. That's what you need to think about. Because what you're investing in becoming that future desired reality, stepping into that you, into that woman, which is not that far away, by the way, because like I said, these shifts are happening fast and furious. Greater levels of transformation, accelerated levels of transformation are coming in all the time. And the next thing I'm going to talk about, I'm going to explain why this is. But think how painful and what the cost is of you being in the exact same position 5 years, 3 years from now. Okay? Dina says, yep, so I actually told myself I'm not going to think about it anymore. I'm just going to roll with it all and follow my heart. Yes, that's what I've been doing. And yesterday I talked about living in the prayer and living as if everything is a blessing. Because that transformation you're asking for, if you've been calling out to the universe and saying, I want to change, I want transformation, the universe is bringing it to you. But because of your own resistance, and the only contrast that's being provided is you being in resistance to it, you're not seeing the transformation as it shows up. You're rejecting it, you're questioning it, you're trying to moderate it, you're trying to micromanage it. That transformation is showing up. So you got to be able to roll with it. You got to be able to say, you know what? What's the worst that could happen? What's the worst that could happen? You know, I lose this old way of being, but then that means maybe I lose some of the people that were kind of toxic to me at the same time, or I lose some situations, and I lose the memory of old events that are so fresh in my mind, but I'm living them as if they're happening to me today. What if I could lose those connections in my brain? Those neurotransmitters that trigger all those old emotions that are disempowering and make me feel terrible, maybe I lose those old connections and I don't have to think about that anymore. And in fact, you becoming the most desired future version of you involves just that, losing those neural connections, so that your memory of your past you no longer holds sway or holds power over who you are becoming. Only when we make that break and we sever that tie to the old past self, when we lose those tethers, do we really become free to create at will and to step into quantum possibilities that right now are beyond what we can even imagine. Okay? Hi, Patrice. So stop sending mixed signals to the universe. Do you want transformation? Do you know what that involves? Are you willing to deal with the shift cost and say, I'm okay with that? I know I'm going to be uncomfortable as these shifts happen, but I'm okay with that. I'm going to roll with it. I'm going to see the blessings in it. I'm going to live inside the prayer and feel like this is all happening for me instead of to me, right? Those perspective shifts will save your ass. Trust me. Trust me. Because the last 8 weeks, well, even more than that maybe, have been really, really trying, because I've been trying to micromanage all the changes and moderate all the changes. I've been asking for transformation. The universe has been showing up with it, but I was like, yeah, but that's too fast. Yeah, but it's supposed to look this way. Yeah, but you know what? Can we do that next week? Stop doing that, because what you're doing is sending mixed signals to the universe, and it's just going to stop sending you the level of transformation, because your feeling and your words and your actions are going to speak louder than what you might be saying out loud, right? Your thoughts and your feelings and the way you show up and behave is going to speak volumes about what it is that you really want. And it's not that the universe isn't going to keep giving you gifts. I call them gifts in the garbage, where the transformation is showing up that we're asking for, but it doesn't look like the way we think it's going to look or the way it's supposed to look, and it doesn't feel that great. Gift in the garbage. It's a blessing. It's the transformation you're asking for showing up. But we're so good at talking ourselves out of our own evolution. We're so good at talking ourselves out of our own expansion. We're so good at talking ourselves out of the things that we would allow into our experience that actually benefit us in the long run. Because we can't see far enough beyond the problem that we can't see, you know what, actually, it's not going to benefit me maybe right now, and it's probably going to feel shitty for a while, but over time, it's going to look like this, and it's going to feel like this, and then I'll have this, and that'll take me to the next best thing. And often we can't see far enough beyond the problem because we're living so immersed in the problem, we can't see the long-term benefits of the blessings coming in. Right? You guys get what I'm saying? Give me a heart if you understand. But here's the third and the final thing I want to talk about. Here's the truth about the new energies that are coming in, okay? So this is a great way to encapsulate what's going to happen not only through the rest of the year, but it's going to be really big and it's going to feel really compounded over the next couple of months. But remember how sometimes, like, a good example is if you're someone who likes to reread books, okay? There are certain books that I keep around that I reread all the time. Sometimes fiction, but usually, I mean, a lot of what I read is for the work that I do, for coaching and mentoring. And you know how sometimes you'll read a book, maybe even an entire book, or maybe passages out of a book, and it doesn't really hit you in the feels when you read it. You just kind of skim through it or whatever, and you're like, yeah, you know, that's kind of interesting. But then you go back and you read it, and it just hits you like a ton of bricks. It hits you like a spear through the heart. Or it feels like an epiphany, an aha moment where everything just kind of goes, just implodes within you. And you're like, why didn't I get that before? Like, why didn't that make sense to me before? Because we have been so good at living inside our problem, living at the level of our story that we tell ourselves about who we think we are, about what I said before, the person that we present to the world that's really, you know, has outlived its worth to us, has outlived its value to us, this personality that we've presented in the world to just get by, to just get through, to just manage a crisis, whatever. I'm doing that right now with a book. Me too, Allison, actually with a couple different books. And a couple different things that, this is why I like to sign up for self-study courses, because then I'll go through the material again. And a self-study course that maybe didn't do anything for me the first time around, I'll take it again and it'll be like, oh my God, why was I not available for that wisdom the first time around, right? Anyway, I forgot what I was saying. We're so in the problem. We've been really good at, as we've had this kind of trajectory of spiritual awakening, and it's really kind of come to this crescendo over the last, you know, couple months of 2018 and even into 2019, especially the first, 6 weeks of 2019 here. This kind of spiritual awakening has come to such a crescendo where we're trying to take what we've learned and integrate it into wholeness in our human awakening process. And it's uncomfortable because it's making us feel stretched. It's making us feel like we're being pulled in our consciousness in a lot of different directions. And it's because we're accommodating a higher version of who we are into this physical vessel. And it's fighting with all the old ways of being, all our old problems, all our old stories that we tell to ourselves about who we are, all our old excuses about why we can't have or be or do what we want, all our old falsehoods, half-truths, all of our old thoughts, all of our old feelings, all of our own ways of behaving. This spiritual awakening is trying to reconcile and kind of find ways in between all this other shit that we've layered so that we could just be who we are to get us to where we are right now, where we're having this kind of epiphany, this mass human awakening. And we're getting very good at seeing where we can sort out, because it's becoming very clear, and don't worry, I'm getting to a point here. It's becoming very clear what needs to get sorted out, what needs to go. Like, it's clearer for us now more than ever what needs to go. And we're stepping up with a lot more courage now more than ever to give it the green light to go. Does that make sense? Give me a heart if you understand what I'm saying. We were so good for so long at living at the level of our story, living at the level of our problem, that we couldn't see beyond it. And now, because of quantum possibilities, different celestial energies opening up, we're starting to see into the quantum field. We're starting to see a little further down the road than we ever have been before. And not just a way where it just is like, oh, it feels dreamy, or it feels like a dream sequence, or you know, some sort of weird trick my mind is playing on me. It's starting to feel really real for us. And so the things that we would hear or read before that didn't hit us at all, they had no impact on us whatsoever, we're starting to hear these things again, having these things come into our consciousness again, read things again, hear things again, have conversations with people again, even hear snippets of things around us in our periphery again. And we're starting to feel like, oh my God, how did I miss that the first time? Why was I not available to hear that? Because you were living at the level of your problem. What's happening now is you're starting to live in the level of your solution. And I'm not saying that all the answers are going to come, because that's an ego perspective, that to every problem, every challenge, every issue, there is an answer. There isn't. There isn't. But sometimes the answer is, like what Dina was saying before, is being able to kind of just roll with what's happening. What's happening and why this stuff, this information that's coming back into our awareness now, that's hitting us in a way like, why didn't I hear this before? Why couldn't I allow this into my energy before? Is because we're starting to live in a solution-oriented space. This is a year of creative expression and inspiration and creative productivity. 2019 is all about that. So we're starting to merge into that energy now. So this is the good news. I really tapped in. Yes, absolutely, Dina. When we're not in the problem anymore, what does that mean? It means the old wounds are healing. And I'm going to say that again. When we're not living in the problem anymore, when we are in a place where we can actually see beyond our challenge, see beyond our problem, see beyond the issue, see beyond what we need to overcome or triumph over, we are living in a solution-oriented space. That means the healing is happening. The wounds are healing. That is a really, really good thing. And that is part of, the biggest part of, if you ask me, where we integrate all the spiritual awakening that's happening and has happened into our human awakening experience and our human evolutionary trajectory. This is how we integrate it. This is how we become whole. When we heal the wounds, we take the lesson and we say, great, I don't need to do that anymore. And when we're in a solution-oriented space, we are able to hear all that wisdom that is around us all the time, 24/7. We have messages coming in to our awareness all the time. It is trying so hard to infiltrate into our consciousness. We were a not so permeable membrane before. That's why it feels like we couldn't have information or wisdom or insight reach us. Literally, we became this membrane that was kind of impermeable. Well, now we're this beautiful kind of seamless, ethereal, permeable membrane where this stuff that we couldn't hear before, that we couldn't allow come in as wisdom before, is now penetrating our consciousness on many, many levels. And so we are accepting, we are allowing, we are receiving insight in ways that we have not before. These are beautiful celestial energies that are opening up for us. We're living beyond the problem. The old wounds are healing. And now we're in a place to see, feel beyond our challenges, beyond our problems. The information, the tools, the resources that you need are coming around again, because we are in a place where we are vibrationally magnetizing this information to us again. And we'll be able to see the help for what it is when it's showing up. We really weren't able to do that so much before. To see the help, to see the resources, to see the tools, the information coming in. And what's even better is you're going to allow it in now. because you're seeing it for what it is. You're feeling it for what it is. You're like, oh, yes, that's the piece I've been needing. That's the puzzle piece. Great. Yes, I accept that. I accept that. And there's a feeling of excitement about it too. You're in a better place for receiving, for integrating, for processing, and moving forward now than you have been. Super cool, super tapped in, okay? So, the tools for your transformation. Get clear about what it is that you want to become, okay? Be really clear about, do you want transformation? Based on what I talked about in this call, do you really want it? Do you really want it without conditions? Meaning, do you want this transformation exactly the way the universe is going to deliver it to you? Or are you going to try to micromanage it? Are you going to try to moderate it? Are you going to try to talk the universe into maybe a better way of giving it to you? Because that's not going to work. That's the ego trying to be the master. You allowing with a certain amount of faith and trust that this transformation that you're asking for is going to show up in the most blessed way for you, and that it's going to bring the highest integration, even if you can't see it right now. You have to be able to go into all of this transformation with a level of trust and faith that when the dust settles and when things kind of settle out, it's going to be the exact perfect right thing for you. It's pure ego to think that we can see further down the road than the universe can, or we can see a greater picture for ourselves than the universe can. That's bullshit ego conditioning, and that's what's got you to this place of reckoning where you're at right now, where you have this very big gap between the you that you present to the world that is only a shadow of the real you, and the real you that is dying for full expression. Okay? Get clear about what you want transformation to not just look like, but to feel like. Go into the feeling. Does that mean freedom for you? For me, it's freedom. I like having a level of control in my life. So for me, the most desired future version of me, which hopefully I'm on a pathway to becoming more and more of, is experiencing ever increasing levels of freedom, where I get to say how things are going to go in my life. And not in an ego way, but I want experiences. I want travel. I want to be able to, teach a program that is like truly life transforming for people. I want to have coaching, mentoring sessions with clients that are like mind blowing. I want to love my work even more. I love it a lot right now, but I want to love even more what I do. I want to become more of a master level practitioner of what I do. That's really important to me because integrity and being able to deliver a high value product is really important for me, because I know that what's happening in the world and what people are asking for is transformation. I want to help people understand that what transformation really is and what you're really asking for when you ask for transformation, but then I want to be able to deliver the tools so they can access that. I want to live in a world where I feel like when I'm on my deathbed, I can say that, you know what? I did everything I could to leave this world better than I found it. When I think of transformation, that's what it means for me. What does it mean for you? And it means for me experiencing ever increasing levels of mastery at what I do, becoming really good at the things that I'm really good at, and not being so concerned anymore with having to be the perfectionist in all things. I just want to focus on the things that I'm already really good at and then be so proficient, be at master level with what I do. Fuck the things that I'm not good at. It doesn't matter. If I get good enough at what I do, then I can pay somebody else to take care of the things that I'm not good at. What does it mean for you? Transformation. Get really clear on what that feels like. Don't get so invested in the outcome of what that looks like, because that's where you really shoot yourself in the foot. And that's where you start rejecting the universe showing up with, passageways or pathways that you don't recognize, because you're totally giving yourself mental instruction to look at something else or look for something else. Okay? I'm about to lose power here. But I get really excited when I talk about this stuff, so I want to say this final thing. If you are looking for tools and resources now for your human transformation, I had a few people asking me to do a self-study course and to have a more affordable version of my signature program. So that's Become the Creatrix. And as of Friday, it's going to be available as a self-study course. The first time I taught it, it was called Evolve and Expand. So that name will be thrown around in there in some of the material, but that is my signature program. It's my signature course. The beta course was called Evolve and Expand, but I'm offering that as the self-study program at half price of what I charge when I do the live program. So this is a very affordable version. So if you are ready to jump on this, like it's like a magic carpet with the celestial energies right now. The celestial events have really opened up infinite pathways of spiritual awakening over the last 8 or 9 years, and now is the time to integrate that, to effectively integrate it so that it feels like wholeness for us, so that it feels like we have elevated, we have accelerated our human awakening process. And this means no longer letting the ego play the master. This means letting the ego become the servant, which is really what it was always meant to be, is the servant, and shifting your reality so that the higher intelligence that's really running this show is more situated to really be in the driver's seat of your life. So you can go to this website if you want to join up, but I hope this has found you today in a place where you could really hear this and get excited about it. And with this full moon that's happening, with Chiron moving out of Pisces and moving into Aries, you have these beautiful celestial events that are taking place that are lending themselves to our transformation. Now is not the time to be sitting on the fence and feeling in fear about this anymore, because we are way past that now. And our human awakening process is like all the right things are in place for us to move into this. And I'm not going to say it's going to feel all great and fuzzy and warm and pink and rosy at first, because change in terms of our biological imperative to stay safe and feel comfortable, change can be difficult until we learn to establish a new level of being that becomes familiar and becomes comfortable for us. That is what I teach and I share in Become the Creatrix, all the tools and resources to step into your new way of being and to close the gap between the you that you're presenting to the world that is not entirely authentic, that is largely the you that needs to fall away, and closing the gap between that you and the you that is the highest idealized version of you that you know is like right there, so close you can reach out and touch it. I want to give you those tools, and I want to make it real easy and affordable for you to do that. So there's the link. You can check it out. Get in the signature program. On Friday, it will be going out to people who sign up. It's an instant download, the PDF, and all of the audio replays will be in a single instant download, but you also get access to the Facebook support group for Become the Creatrix, which there's always bonuses and extra value that I provide for you in there. I hope this has found you well. I want to wish you so much love and peace. Thanks for watching. Have a beautiful week. Bye-bye.